Dear participants, we are kindly inviting you to take your seats in the hall. The business breakfast will start in 2 minutes. Dear participants, please take your seats in the hall. The business breakfast will start in a minute.
уважаемые участники,
Dear participants, the Minister of Transport of the Russian Federation, Evgenievich Ivanovich Dietrich. Good morning, dear colleagues. So it's 9 or 7, and usually we can hardly call this time a good morning because usually good morning starts at 11. But transport infrastructure cannot wait, and that is why I suggest that we should start our business breakfast, especially those who haven't had the time to have the breakfast. I mean, those people would love to eat something. And today, our traditional business breakfast, that is actually the beginning of the business part of our program, Transport Forum 2019, is already here. And today I would like to start our meeting, to start our breakfast with bon appetit, first of all, and I would like to congratulate you on the fact that this year is considered to be the 210th anniversary of the Transport Department and Transport Education and Information in Russia. Today, the traditional business breakfast should start with some traditional wishes. I would like to wish you good investment because first and foremost we focus on investment activities and investment in general in the sphere of transport. I would like to say that 2019 from this perspective was really positive from the transport point of view, very successful. The overall amount of investment in the infrastructure has grown by almost 14%. Well, practically speaking, we should say that it amounts to 2.4 trillion rubles. It was specifically allocated for transport, and out of that, 1.5 was derived from out-of-budget means. So we right now stick to our schedule, and we expect that next year we will make it to 2 trillion rubles in transport infrastructure. It's a real figure. It's a very good indicator. And we see that when the government was tailoring some forecast, we were actually expecting approximately 7%, 7.5% investment within the horizon of 2024. And what can be regarded as a precondition for this plan and the way that is now being executed, and that we are actually even exceeding it. We have taken a big number of very important solutions regarding investment and road infrastructure in different regions. We also working with excise for different transport infrastructure where some roads clusters are responsible for some of the regions. Also eliminated some tax burdens for road infrastructure, and we understand that sometimes funds were taken by some road funds. We should say that it gives us a really good impetus, especially for our investment infrastructure within the road infrastructure. As for a number of projects, we should say that we have seen tremendous changes in this domain, and practically we can say that we finalized toll roads M11 and section number 6 and 7 were put into operation. They were commissioned. As for 89, everything is ready to be opened, especially the last sections. And we should say that Russian roads, they are going to commission a lot of different roads, and some of them were built with some private investment. So it amounts to approximately $15 billion rubles that were attracted with the help of state corporations. We have a number of powerful projects now executed by Russian roads, and for example, Azov and Black Sea Basin. We also working with seaports in terms of modernization, and we're trying to expand the infrastructure. We can see that we have quite a big surplus of investments. We should say that, of course, they are being right now executed with the help of private investments, which makes a big difference. I also have something to say about some other points as well. We opened an airport in Saratov this year that was a real benchmark, an important event, and of course it took a lot of efforts from different angles to accomplish this piece of work. Still, the airport was opened, and this is one of the airports, just like the airport in Rostov, that were built for scratch. It's worth mentioning that this year around we took the decision that we're about to proceed to the execution of a new road corridor from the center of Russia to Siberia. It's called Europe and Western China. We also should say that it is based on the road between Moscow, Vladimir, and Nizhny Novgorod, Chebaksar, and Kazan, and it will work as a bridge between different regions and also boost the investment competitiveness of the regions, and of course stimulate some economic activities, brings together some economic clusters in different regions. So this is one of the roads that in future will go through Samara, and of course it gives us access to the Republic of Kazakhstan. All these investment projects, this is something that in fact for now is there in our portfolio, and a big part of them has already been executed, which is really great. Nowadays, I would like to listen to different regions, to some representative of the investment communities, those who've been working with the practical part of the issue. And it would be really nice to exchange our expertise and experience, to talk about the weak points and our strengths, and some of the role models that should be duplicated and be used as a kind of a replica for other future endeavors. Probably, of course, there have been some challenges, some very complicated points, and they need to be somehow sorted out in order to move forward. Today, I would like each of us all together have a very solid fruitful discussion, and even though that it's an early morning, there is also room for jokes. So dear colleagues, I suggest once again that we should proceed to our breakfast. Bon appetit once again, and in order to have some entertainment, I've seen Mr. Trustrenko somewhere here, Roman Viktorovich. So let's start with one of very renowned investors, and the way you invest into airports, and how you actually find some work and works that need to be accomplished within the Russian market, whether it was successful or not. But just for you to know, I would like to say that for quite a long time we have been working with concessions in quite a positive way. So what do you think, speaking about the most important projects you've been focusing on, can this practice be applied to them, and could we actually use this kind of status in a broader sense? What about the initiatives that are now used as a driving force, especially regarding the law for protecting investments? Are they actually positive? What about your work? Probably you could also think about some amendments that need to be introduced to our legislative basis. Good morning and bon appetit. Well, I would like to remind you that 5 years ago we had a breakfast, and also you brought us all together. We had pretty much the same composition of our breakfast. We talk about our approaches, and of course we wanted to have some kind of a transfer in a hub in Siberia based on the airport in Tolmachova. So back then we had a discussion regarding our possible state and private partnership. So this year around, we should say that 4 participants of this project: Russian Federation, represented by the Ministry of Transport, Russian Aviation, Siberian regions, and the owners of Tolmachova, as well as S7 Airlines, they finalized the first stage of the project, and here are some preliminary results. Within a period of 1 year, we have already transported over 7 million passengers, so it means that the passenger flow has been increased by quite a significant percentage, and we should say that 413,000 have been transported by S7 Airlines. So this airport is now ranked as number 4 after the Moscow hub, after St. Petersburg, and the airport of Sochi. And even more important, that this is the second transfer airport after the Moscow hubs. I would say that this is something unprecedented. We're talking a very big scope of passenger traffic. And why did it actually happen? Well, I think that we also have contributed to that, but we should also thank the geographical position of the airport. If you look at the location, we should say that this is a point within the Eurasian area, and this map is absolutely correct in terms of the distances that airplanes have to travel. It looks a little bit different on globe, but actually here on the map it reflects the real distances. So we thought about Novosibirsk Virk, and the fact that it brings together, for example, such routes that were developed by for Neo and Boeing 737, and it brings together different Eurasian points. So you can reach any points here via this airport. So when we only proceeded to this project, we thought that probably we would fail, but right now we have over 95 different destinations, and as a result, we have 2,030 different routes for passengers, and so that we can use this airport as a real hub. Thank you very much. Actually, I really appreciate the work that has been accomplished by Nordburg, and in fact, I was absolutely mesmerized by the results that you have manifested. But could you please say how you actually managed to achieve such a goal, such a results? Well, I understand, last time we had a discussion and quite a dispute regarding the private and state partnership, and we make a suggestion that probably the first task of it is to be absolutely transparent for the participants, so that the participants participating in it could be absolutely aware of their role and all the functions. And for this project specifically, we choose the following approach. We decided that every participant should create their own infrastructure. We prepared a continuous plan for the development of transport hubs for the forthcoming years, and so they just decided to accomplish their part of work. And we should say that even though we sometimes lag behind the schedule, but they amounted only a couple of weeks or something. So it means that the region managed to also come up with some approach roads, different parts of the hubs, and also focused on such ways as runways, avia navigation. Apart from that, we also focused on the commercial infrastructure, on different terminals, also worked with the postal service of Russia. We also sorted out the issue regarding this infrastructure, which is also important for electronic message. Apart from that, S7, they also increased their fleet, and this is one of the major steps in terms of our approach. So we didn't have any difficulties, in fact, regarding, for example, ownership and what we're supposed to do with that, how we should sort out all these ownership-related issues. And now every institute has its own rules. We also have an idea of our capital expenditures, about the way all those projects should be commissioned. But what about investment projects? What was particularly good or positive? I should say that everything was absolutely convenient. I find it really convenient that every participant was doing something really important in the framework of one common plan, and so they were doing it really great. Yes, exactly. This is one of the first theses that I would like to extrapolate on a little bit more as part of our business breakfast. So I would like to say once again that we are meant to accomplish our piece of work and to do it in a very efficient way. Thank you very much, Roman Viktorovich. I would like to thank you once again for the opening, and I beg your pardon, but I didn't see Andrei Yurich Ivanov from the very beginning. Yes, I would like to just say that I was looking in that direction, but a little bit further. So could you please talk a little bit more about some new instruments this year around? They have been discussed a lot, all these instruments, especially that we can use for protecting our investments. And right now it is very intensely covered by mass media. So you, as one of the authors of this document, could you please extrapolate a little bit more on this document so our colleagues can understand, including Roman Viktorovich, just understand how this document is going to work. Talk a little bit about the weak points and the strengths of these documents. A lot is being said right now about these documents, and there are fears that previous use mechanisms applied in transport infrastructure, they could be somehow forgotten because of these documents. So could you please comment on that a little bit? Yes, I would like to stay in line with our tradition and say bon appetit first and foremost, and I hope that I'm not going to ruin your breakfast, but I would like to share some good news. I would like to express my words of gratitude to the financial investment sector in transport infrastructure, because it's very important for us and for this country, and we should say that this is the most investment intensive industry in Russia. For quite a few years, we have been working with a lot of different investment and capital intense projects, and actually something that involves different sectors of economy. We're talking about Russian railways, about car building industry, about airport companies. I mean, everything that is related to aviation as well. And we should say that the part of a transport investment project in GDP can be hardly actually be reflected and could be put on this slide, but it has a direct impact on economy. So my works of gratitude again and again, and I hope that we will intensify our cooperation in future even more. What about our role? What are we doing? We are trying to do a lot. So we have a trillion ruble budgets, which is really unprecedented, and we were quite unaware that we actually had such resources. We have a very strong team. We have the government of the Russian Federation, and it's our most important task to really use all those resources, absorb them efficiently, and to make it a real part of our life cycle. Transport-related projects, on one hand, are projects that investment cannot survive without. Why? Because one of the major limitations that we are always being notified from our investors, especially we talk about attracting investment, are related to infrastructure and relevant limitation. I would like to express my words of gratitude to the Russian railways because this investment-oriented policy is really marvelous, and I really like their stance. It's very important for us. I would like to thank our governors and also representative of different road construction organizations. None of us was left indifferent, and we are taking it with a lot of attention in order to find the right solutions in the sphere of transport infrastructure. Apart from that, they of course require investments, require certain capital. When we talk about law enforcement needed for this investment project, for them to be successful, we bear in mind all the possible aspects. That is why something that you have announced, for example, all this capital investment that needs to be allocated. Well, I should say that it's really great that yesterday a very important law was put forward for the examination of the State Duma, and we also participated in the discussion. We are very thankful for the cooperation and the support that was provided for us in terms of developing such a document, such a law. And so the point is that investors, they really need to be given some certain impetus. They need to be motivated. And of course, we require certain documents and also instruments for that. Well, we're not going to substitute the existing infrastructure with something new. No, instead of that, we need to have a certain variety of choices and options in order to make all those investment plans come true. That is why we decided to have a certain platform-based solutions in order to protect the capital that should be allocated for transport infrastructure. That includes two major components. So first of all, we're talking about a 6 to 20-year period, and during this period, the Russian Federation and entities, they should provide certain conditions that will remain intact in terms of project execution from the point of view of taxation, customs clearance, and also sometimes tariff regulations, also certification, standardization, etc., so that new projects can be really performed by investors based on a certain platform and certain declaration, and for investors to understand that all those conditions will remain intact until they get a certain investment-related effect on that. And also we need to minimize the fiscal burden, especially for the first stage of project execution. So when we proceed and when we start seeing the first revenue, then we will offer to the investment to get a certain payback on transport, digital and energy-related infrastructure, thanks to the taxes coming and poured with the help of this project. So actually we want to get involved all the possible instruments available for this matter. And the third thing, we are seeing that any measures of state support that an investment project needs and gets, well, they all need to be consolidated within one single agreement. And we're talking about subsidies as well as different other agreements that need to be signed by all the participants involved, different organizations. And there should be a certain consensus regarding the deadlines, different scopes of work, amount of investment, and so on and so forth. Apart from that basically we suggested to form and to come up with a number of measures that need to be performed by the state sector. And it takes involvement of the ministries, of ministers, and we are going to use this instrument in order to make our framework and our basis of work absolutely transparent for everybody, including investors. It is very important for generating new jobs and for boosting our infrastructure further on. As for the existing instruments, on one hand, with Subexuran, which we have already discussed, that I think there is no need to reinvent a wheel, and something that is really good and efficient shouldn't be substituted by something new. But instead, we need to focus more on the state and private partnership as well, and commissions, and regard it just as another instrument. So we had a number of solutions, and while working on different drafts of laws and laws, this is something that we'll need within the forthcoming perspective and horizon in order to proceed the next stage of development.
First of all, within the frames of our concession, what is important for the budget? We create lots of direct and indirect liabilities. Direct liabilities are mostly related to the financial flow, which is being created within the frames of a concession project or the project of private-public partnership. On the other hand, these are risks that are monetized and taken by the state, and how it monetizes and how it considered these risks. Number one, in order for an investor to protect his rights in some legal order, it should be proven that these liabilities were taken. Where is this register of the liabilities taken? Where is the guarantee for the minimal profitability? Where is the warranty for traffic? Where are other guarantees which are taken by the state? But for the very concession agreement, the concession agreement will be the basis to come to court. But in order to prove that these liabilities are there and that the state is responsible by these liabilities, we need to arrange clear-cut register. And we promise that altogether with our colleagues, we will specify all the details so that to remove all possible problems with our financial unit and implement it properly. Thank you very much, Andrei. Dear friends, well, actually, I was not going to interrupt, and all the words are very important, but I would like to specify two things out of this speech. Number one, I would like to say that we are very grateful for the understanding of financial and infrastructure issues, development of infrastructure, which is done by Ministry of Finance and which is being discussed all the time, and I would like to say that we sometimes even dispute about that. And more often we get understanding that the wisdom of our financial leaders is truly great, as long as the transportation system has so much of state investments, and actually we claim at those investments immediately, and I believe that it's very hard to get adjusted to the situation and to use this finance in time. But step by step we get used to that, and the main thing is that we get used to the better as soon as possible. And well, next, as we are speaking about the law, I would like to mention the following thing. It's put down for me. We do not recommend to change anything, as one great person said, as fragile balance of mistakes makes the system work. Maxim Gennadievich, I have a question to you. What is your idea? How do you understand the law about protection of capital investments? In your region, you have a huge number of initiatives, like 100 projects of these initiatives, and we have proven that they are really successful and that we're moving on. And the balance of these mistakes or correct things, what is your idea about this? So, good morning, bon appetit traditionally, and truly, as to any active system, this should be treated very carefully. What was mentioned by Andrei, the main idea is that nothing is going to change. We're just going to add something or amend, but we're not going to abolish anything. So that is why we should feel comfortable for the tools that have been created, but the tools need to be perfected. We have started lots of projects, as well as my colleagues, governors, and the key thing for implementation for today is kind of financial ambiguity. We have started construction of lots of bridges for T1, but we do not completely understand which are the prospects for finances. And we understand for this year, and then we see huge financial disbalance finance. And from this point of view, what can we talk to subcontractors, how much money they require? And in this idea, some allocation of money from federal budget is not enough, and sometimes the condition of regional budgets is quite good, for instance, right away. And Federation of Regions could agree that, for instance, regions can accelerate financing of concessions which are not specified by considerable grants from federal budget. And federal budget, within some reasonable periods of time, would compensate for these expenses. And thus, we could be the damper, which I should say would decrease a general indefinity of the system. And because to get to Ministry of Finance and ask to confirm money for the nearest 3 years, I don't think that it's possible. And, well, it's wishful thinking. And the second thing I would like to specify is that we all work with the external framework, money, guarantees, some time frames and horizons of planning. These are correct things, but I believe that we should shift the focus to the internal frame. What I mean is that we should analyze costs. Why do we have this kind of construction? And construction by many points is more expensive than in other countries. And to work specifically dedicated to this subject. In Yekaterinburg, we have discussed an issue of requirements for water code, where we should construct a special arrangement for rain wastes. And we have lots of companies going to the projects and lots of initiatives. It will be somehow implemented in the budget, or investors will allocate this to some payments, and this will result to the objects getting more expensive. And what kind of steps are we doing? What is implemented in the federal legislation? I believe this is a perfect step forward. This is perfect reduction of costs for all transportation system and for all concessions. So that is why I believe that the main idea to continue moving on is that every person would do his or her work every day. And the improvements that we have reached, well, now we are transferring quantity into quality, and the amount of investments is not a result of adopting one wonderful law. It's the result of dozens of steps that have been done, and I believe that the main task is to continue this precise movement that we have in direct cooperation. Maxim, thank you very much, and I try to remember one of the meetings which was done by Mr. Shuvalov when he was first deputy of Prime Minister. We were discussing airfields, we were discussing companies related to aviation, how we should invest into development and how much it will cost for the future aircraft companies which are working at this or that air hubs. And Mr. Ivantsov, who celebrated his 50th anniversary recently, he was celebrating his anniversary and he was keeping silent. And when he was asked, Vitaly, what do you think about this? And he said, Dmitry Ivanovich, well, we have got used to this. We understand what's happening. We understand how system operates. Do not change anything. Please do not touch anything so that not to disbalance this very system which operates properly right now. And I should say thank you because he understands this fragile balance existing into this market because he can use this balance. And also, well, he is very successful with that. It really works with him. And as related to the point that it's more expensive with us, I don't know. Quite recently, myself and Mr. Trutnev discussed airfield in Blagoveshchensk, which this year we tried to sell for 4 times, and no subcontractors came to us. And I even asked Mr. Pengasov, where is Dmitry, by the way? Good morning. And, well, don't you want our people related to concrete works who can arrange concrete roads construction? Would you like to come to Blagoveshchensk airfield and to do something there? And they replied in the following way, you know, well, working at this airfield costs like 6 billion, and we have only 4.5 implemented for the expenses. That's why we're not going there, and we have doubts that we will go bankrupt, and we will finish right here very quickly. That is why it's a question whether it's more expensive or whether it's cheaper. And I would like to ask as to Izhevsk airfield, you are working there very intensively, and you probably have some technological and price audits and lots of other processes, and maybe next year we're going to start. Is it going to be more expensive or cheaper? Oh, well, first of all, good morning, and actually, I would like to say bon appetit, and actually both, and actually all the processes. Well, cheaper or more expensive. I do hope that it will be cheaper. As to the first stage, we have started it this year, and thank you for having invited me for the opportunity to have the floor. I have listened to Novosibirsk, 6 million of people, passenger flow, and other examples of the projects already implemented, and small excursus into the story about Udmurtia Republic. Well, my first working day was 5th of April 2017, and when on 4th of April I was trying to choose how to get there, all the colleagues told me, see, you should go to Naberezhny Cholny and then to Izhevsk. Is there any direct communication? Well, there is, but this is a local company, and Yak 42 is used there. I believe it's a good airplane. Well, it's a good airplane, but it hasn't been produced for many years, and the take-off and landing hasn't been repaired for quite a long time. And finally, when I came there by Yuzhavia Aircraft Company, and immediately the chief of airfield told me about this and said that we were excluded from the program of reconstruction of a landing line, and they were flying via Perm or via Naberezhny Cholny. We were losing like 40,000 passenger flow, and we should have taken measures because speaking about development of economy, about investments into the region, when entrepreneurs say, let's better meet in Moscow, well, because we wouldn't like to get there. It's too complicated. And number one is quick that we've done is quick wings. We have agreed with the Russian railways. And well, in 2017, we have changed all the carriages, modern two-story carriages. I didn't expect for such emotional reaction from people that, well, there are truly visible changes which haven't happened for quite a long time. And number two, I would like to express gratitude because the Murtia and Airfield are included into the program till 2024. We have started designing this year, and for us it's not only a kind of assistance. For us it's a minimal required element for further development. And I have slides. When we got to know that we are in the program, we immediately started communication with potential professional operators of airfields in Russia. With one of them, we are negotiating in order to arrange parallel repair of the landing line and also to construct a terminal of the airfield. And as long as we got used to filter everything via communication with the citizens, we had lots of offers how the new airport should look like. And I remember I've got it in my email that we should construct this immediately. Please switch on the next slide. It's really important. And they say that we should have this one in Izhevsk, and then everything will happen, and we will be lucky with this. But I believe you understand what I mean actually. And now the third slide, please, in order to compare what we have now. Well, actually, it was constructed back in 1974, and at that point, for the year 2017, nothing changed. But for the picture, which was done in black and white, and which looks better for those who are fond of this kind of photography. And this cannot be kind of element which would stimulate investments and development. And for us, it's truly important to have this kind of support. And I do hope, well, at least we have all possible prerequisites for us by 2024 to construct a new air hub. And by 2024, due to you, we will finalize the reconstruction of the takeoff line. And in order order for you to understand the changes. We have agreed with the Aeroflot company that in 2018 finally we will start flights, and I would like to remind you that we had kind of a monopoly by Izhavia flying with us, and the passenger flow was like 235 to 140,000 annually, and after Aeroflot coming we got 350,000 passengers flow, and finally we started compete with Perm and Tatarstan flying via international airfields, and they fly at least in Russia via us. Thank you very much. Thank you for high assessment of our modest work and for what you are doing right now. And I would like to emphasize only one thing. Well, we had quite a large-scale seminar which took place quite last weekend, and we discussed regional aviation there. So, honorable governors, please consider that part of the things that are already here, we have discussed dramatic changes of subsidizing programs, and we have agreed that we'll consider how these programs can be reconstructed in order for the subsidies to regional transfers would be of long-term character, so that their allocation would be among the flights, among the routes, which have already been started. And I'm firmly convinced that this kind of long-term policy will make it possible for us to arrange investments into infrastructure in a correct way and to connect the airfields which are going to be more popular according to these programs of subsidies should be developed first and foremost. And this kind of synchronized projects will give good, correct results, and I invite everyone to speak about modernization of these programs, and we are waiting for creative offers regarding that. And now, as to Tolmacheva, well, maybe Andrei Alexandrovich will tell us something. We have lots of connected projects and airfield projects which we have already started, road infrastructure projects which we should also connect to this point. Please tell us, from the point of view of investments that are done by the region, which are done by private investors, what is good, what is bad, how we should arrange these processes, how you have arranged those. Well, yes, thank you very much, honorable colleagues, dear friends, good morning. And this is going to be a wonderful day, the first day of Russian Transportation Week, and it's very hard to get reconstructed from that very event of the strategic session which was done by Mr. Akimov last weekend. But I'll try my best to get back to the main agenda of our breakfast that is related to investments. And I would like to agree with some theses that have been expressed. Number one, there cannot be too many tools to support investments, and we should enlarge the scale. And number two, we cannot dramatically change and stop the existing tools. This is actually very fine-tuning which is required here. And an example of Tolmacheva development is actually not only an aircraft. This is a quite large-scale territory of development which we call Aerocity, and this is an example that we can create successful cases, and this case is already successful. At the very beginning, Roman Viktorovich proven some confirmations to this, and this is a long-term program to be implemented, and still we are already successful. So successful cases can be created using the today tools, and quite often investors consider not only regulatory documents or some official agreements or kind of preferences, but what they truly need. They need this kind of long-term understanding, coordination on behalf of the government, the coordination between all the large-scale participants of the project. And this example and the previous experience of myself and my colleagues inspired us to dramatically change investment legislation inside the Novosibirsk region. And this year, well, I think that that colleagues, governors would agree with me that for many years we have a kind of special preferences race. We have already selected tax benefits which are allowed by the legislation, and we are trying to give as more subsidies as possible, direct subsidies, compensating for expenses of investors. And I know such exotic examples when our colleagues are trying to use different ways to compensate for investment projects. And this year we have reassessed that we should stop this race, and we have corrected our legislation. As I have already said, for instance, subsidies to commercial projects are given only if there is clear-cut budget efficiency. If an investor guarantees within the plan 3-year budgets the return of investments as additional taxes, then the investor will have the right to hope for subsidies from regional budget. If not, then use tax benefits and use the opportunities that we provide to you to develop infrastructure, namely development of the associated infrastructure and clear-cut understanding of plans is number one criteria for investors to take investment decisions. Well, thank you very much. And dear friends, actually I do hope that you have an opportunity to have breakfast and to communicate it during the speeches, and you do not terminate this process. And very important words were mentioned, and they are related to the point that it's not only successful investment project, and it's not only kind of joint efforts of every person at his position, but it's also active support from the region. And I know that Novosibirsk region appoints a special curator to every investment projects in the administration, which is controlling this project from the beginning till the very end. Number of positions to support that are implemented by the administration of the region, and that is also a success of investment projects.
And of course, new interesting experimental ways to regulate the whole domain that is now being presented at the regional level. Of course, it's another contribution to our common success. And since right now all those tax preferences, are now being a little bit declining right now, it means that the life of investment project and state-private partnership is really good. And colleagues have something to choose amongst different options. It's really nice to achieve such results. And now, thinking about our long-term understanding and stability, and we understand that it's really important for any investment, and also it's very important for our expectations for our users. I think that this is one of the basic things. And of course, it would be nice to also to focus on that as well altogether. We have not touched upon on airports, but I think that we can also discuss this issue as well, because today we are joined by another company and Eduard Sergeyevich Gudkov. Yes, now I would like to ask you, Eduard Sergeyevich, to share some information regarding our plans and something that is being done by the Novatek company, because projects are really large scale, they are incredibly intense, they are global projects, and now they are now being very actively developed, and I should say that it has already been highly assessed by the government as well. So what about your future investment plans? What do you think about them? And are they going to generate any new results or something interesting for us? Good morning, dear colleagues. Bon appetit. First of all, you know that Novatek is a gas company, and I would say that up until now it has quite a small participation in transport. But we have, for example, Yamal liquefied natural gas project. We were very much supported by the Ministry of Transport, and within the Arctic area, we constructed Sabeta Airport and also unified Arctic Airport. We also reconstructed undersea corridor in the Noguba Sea. And now for the next project, we are now working with Rosatom. We talk a lot about Rosetta Airport. In Sabeta Airport is a very important hub. It's worth mentioning that from the very beginning, when we were taking the decision to construct the Sabeta port, a lot of experts and specialists heavily criticized both us and the Ministry of Transport, because we were trying to create a very capital-intense project against very hazardous and harsh adverse conditions. But at the same time, we see that right now the Sabeta Sabeta port is not just one of the key aspects in the transport infrastructure, but also it's one of the points of growth that can also generate development of other transport infrastructure projects. For example, as for Yamau-Nenetsk autonomous region, well, we should say that the government right now is working on a special project in order to construct Belonenkovo-Sabenko railway stretch, and of course it will allow not only just to transport liquefied natural gas as one of very important export goods or commodity, but also will allow for some transportation of other cargo hydrogen along this route. Not long ago, the Novatek company met with a representative of the Omsk region, and I would say that right now they are thinking about very interesting ways to use the Sabeta port for the transportation of also different crops along the north sea routes to Asia. Yes, what about those ways that you mentioned? I know that some of people here, they know hardly anything about some global Novatek project. I'm pretty sure that this information is, of course, available, but what about your personal take on that? I remember when Sabeta and the idea itself just started to appear, and hardly anybody believed in that at different levels, at the level of ordinary workers, at the national level, at the level of government, and right now we regard it as a real presence of new technologies, something absolutely unprecedented, because we talk about transportation in the Arctic area, I mean, transportation of liquefied natural gas, and this is one of my major advantages in terms of production and in terms of transportation. What about the project itself? How did you conceive it, and what actually allowed you to make all those plans come true? Is it about some lobbying policy, or is it about some investment, or maybe some new ways to regulate different procedures? What was the most important thing as part of the successful story? Well, you know, I would say that when answering this question, I want to come back to the words of Mr. Michelson, and he said when some time ago he visited Yamal liquefied natural gas plant, he looked around and he said, you know, if I knew how it is going to be look like, I think that I would have never ever dared to do that. That is why all the ambitions, all the strengths of the team was an unprecedented source of support for us. And it's not about lobbying resources, but also it's about the fact that government, the state believed in us, as well as the president, as well as the ministry, really was able to meet us halfway and to meet our needs. And this was one of the major preconditions for this project to be executed on time and even a little bit ahead of schedule from the budgetary point of view, as well as from the point of all the savings and the financial part of it. Right now, we're focusing on another project. We are also working on our Arctic liquefied natural gas plant too, and we're going to apply new technologies there. This is one of my major goals. For example, in Murmansk region, we also have some infrastructure for very big cargo consignments. We're going to create some floating platforms for liquefied natural gas that will be delivered to the exploitation sites. So that will also allow us to cut down on the capital expenditures. And also, we shouldn't forget about the innovative and very ambitious approach to the whole thing. I think that it's very important for the users of the transport infrastructure. We will be working in close cooperation with the Ministry of Transport, the representative of this industry, and will be transporting our cargoes, our consignments. I would like to remind you that as for the northern sea routes, I would say that all the transportation along this route they are now being executed with the help of Arctic liquefied natural gas project, and a part of consignments that should be delivered against this route is one of the integral parts of this initiative. And something that you mentioned, well, I would like to highlight once again that it takes a very good team with all the roles, with the right approach in order to achieve this level of success. Ambitions, innovative approach. I think that this is the recipe that we should really use a role model in our work. Thank you very much. And now I would like to proceed to our bankers and representative of the banking services. And of course, private investment is not possible for with people. I would say that, of course, we have achieved a certain level of success, but some entities of the Russian Federation, they, of course, are players within the markets, but they are not the one to attract investment. And the Minister of Finance is the one responsible for that. So they are now playing a centralized role. And we cannot imagine our life without our banking service. We have Mr. Tsykhomsky with us, and I know that one of the projects that has now been this great demand among Russian entities is the renovation of the public transport fleets. And as far as I know, your organization also participates in this project. As far as I know, over the past 6 months, you have been working on that really intensely and about the ways to attract new investment. There are certain needs that have been outlined for such a renovation initiative and some updates. And could you extrapolate a little bit more on that? Good morning. It's a great pleasure to be here with you today. I can see a lot of partners of our companies, and I can see some representative of the Russian regions. Well, it's true that the issue of infrastructure, transport infrastructure, is one of the most important ones. And if you look at it, we should say that this amounts for quite a big part of our portfolio. And it's worth mentioning that FedBerev is not a bank, and we shouldn't be regarded as a competitor of VTB Bank, for example. We are just somebody to help with attracting new investment, especially when it comes to very comprehensive projects. We should say that nowadays one of our major goals, or I would say challenges, is to find ways to attract investment from the FinB Bank. This is one of the most important discussions for now, and also that is now taking place with the Minister of Finance. What about our successful stories projects? I think that one of the good examples, projects that have been executed in Moscow, Moscow Metro, and also we're talking about new rolling stocks. We have already almost finalized this part of projects. We should say that over 1,200 rolling stocks have been supplied for this domain. So the overall budget is 75 billion rubles. We should say that it was executed in the framework of the life cycle projects together with FNB. I'm sorry, Moscow Metro is a very important and a very tricky thing. And I remember that in terms of renovation, someone made a joke and said that we're trying to demolish something that some of the regions have not even yet constructed. That is why when we talk about such successful projects in Moscow, this is a really important benchmark that cannot always be duplicated and repeated in different regions. But what about projects that could be also be implemented in regions as well? So, we have different meetings, and we also discuss different initiatives. For example, the ways we can substitute the tramway cars just to have some renovations in regions as well. And also as part of some financial projects, we also talked about tracks that they also rails should be be renovated, and not to mention buses, especially those who are gas motor driven. Yes, of course, we have been focused on that as well, and this is actually accounts for the second part of our challenges. We're talking about development of public transport in regions. We think that this is one of the major issues when it comes to urban environment, and right now, together with such a curator as Sergei Yurievich, as well as many ministers and governors, and also together with Center for Strategic Development Initiatives and Transmas Holding, we are now trying to tailor such a program. For example, right now we are focusing on 10 cities that we would like to apply some comprehensive transport solutions. Well, if we talk about challenges, unfortunately, urban environments and public transport there is a very complicated issue, especially for private investors. We have a lot of different services, a lot of different pitfalls, and also some, different segments of this industry, and this is one of our principal tasks. And tariffs there are very strictly regulated, and it's very important for a private investor to step in. That is why we need support at different levels, at the municipal level, at the regional level, and of course at the federal level, especially if we talk about tramways and about rails, and of course we need some support at the federal level. We are ready to assist you on that, and Maxim Stanislavovich Vaksida is also with us, and we all agree that, I just want to make a joke, maybe it's not that correct, but Moscow is one of the role models. Why? Because Moscow, unlike many other cities, managed to apply a very interesting model, especially transport services solutions. Well, six or seven carriers, if I'm not mistaken, yes, transportation players, and they work in line with a certain schedule, and I should say that the cities can also ask for some services from that using special terminals. It means that in this sense, transporters, they don't really care how much money they make on that, but they do not use commercial routes just instead of socially attractive ones. Instead, they understand their responsibility, that they bear this responsibility, and then they'll be penalized if they violate all those principles. It's very important also to talk about those who are able to provide some financial support. Right now we work in the framework of 7-year projects, and of course it's a very strict regulation that involves participation on listed players only, and of course those who have been barred from such services, they cannot present their candidature for this kind of works. So no bureaucracy, no things of that kind. So I would like that we should rather focus on these models and on these schemes. Well, I absolutely agree with you. Well, I would put it this way. I'm trying to come up with the right phrasing. We sometimes act as terrible bureaucrats trying to create some unwanted schemes. But you are a head of a big state corporation, of a bank, and you can bring all those models together with the regions, with cities. Could you just do that and bring it all to us? And we will be able to assist you on that. We can offer some regulation-related solutions, some infrastructure, some other solutions. So could you please just bring it all together and launch some pilot project, and then we will use it as a basis to also duplicate this practice. Probably this could be a more simplified version, the one than compared to Moscow, but at the same time it will still contain pretty much the same elements and will be applied in regions. I would say that governance would agree with me on that, and you as a corporation that was meant to do that, I think that you should definitely do that. Exactly, that's what we're trying to do. It's true that we use Moscow as our prototype. Or I would say even a large-scale prototype, and one of the first projects will be launched in Tver, and we start with bus fleets, and then we apply the same logic in other locations as well. Well, I hope that we'll be able also to meet with your colleagues and have a discussion regarding this issue. Harmadin is laughing there as far as I can see, so I think that he is pretty much satisfied, and he has supplied everybody with buses. So please, over to you. I would like just to present you and say that on the 16th of October, he reported in Yekaterinburg to Mr. Medvedev, and also regarding those national projects that he is now in charge of, and also regarding the road infrastructure and buses. And he said that he is ready to invest his own 5 billion rubles from VTOK. Am I correct? Well, even if it wasn't correct, well, I don't think I would ever dare to do that. Okay, could you please say a few words about that and the benefits that it could represent for the entities of the Russian Federation, especially substitution of the old rolling stocks with new ones? Thank you very much for such an opportunity to speak in front of you. I'm not going to say bon appetit because it's almost time to get back to our business. GTOK, this is one of the organizations have been on the market for quite a while, but we're trying to remain smart and intelligent, and we still work with some of the programs that were launched by Mr. Levitin many years ago, back in 2010, 2012. We also shared some figures related to the implementation of these programs, but we also focus in on new programs as well. We have gas motor buses, quite a big fleet of them. We also work with trolley buses and tramways. We have an overall fleet of 2,000 units. We are operating in a number of different regions. We supply those regions with new machinery and new vehicles. We also work with the helicopter industry, and we should see that a big number of them have been also supplied by us. We know Aeroflot very well. We also working with them in close cooperation. We work with different region companies as for the water transport. Then 50% of all the orders have been placed with the help of our mechanism. So our major mechanism is all about attracting, on top of the budgetary funds that are allocated by the Ministry of Transport, Ministry of Trade and Commerce, etc. We just want to attract some additional funds, and it becomes the basis, the basic capital of our works. We also issue bonds in rubles, but not only in rubles. It also have 2 billion rubles that have been attracted in form of dollars, American dollars. We are working in close cooperation with all our banks, and we hope that we will be working with the VAP bank as well in an even closer cooperation. That is why attracting funds on top of budgetary funds, this is one of our major models. The most important driving force of our competence, of our expertise is the management board. And it's really nice to see different people here. For example, Oleg Valentinovich, he also used to work with us and was one of the representative of the board of directors, Mr. Serper. Before he joined Duma, he worked with us as well. So a lot of familiar faces. We have a very strong management team, and I would say that this is one of the major key factors in our work, allowing us to work with the old project and also with the new project.
And considering the infrastructure, first we constructed Chelyabinsk terminal and Uralsky terminal, which we have finalized construction and started just this year. And we finalized and signed very important agreements to develop this corridor. This is Launa Port, which is a sea concession, the first one, a very strong one. And thank you very much once again, Albert, for working so hard. Thanks to Russian Railways, which attracted us. Ministry of Transportation truly trained us a lot at this concession, but we have finalized this, and what was said at the very beginning, we can scale this, and we would like to make the same story in Astrakhan. And now we are discussing free economic zone and construction in this area, and a very important story to reach airfield construction, which exists in Moscow region, Zhukovsky Airport. The objects that can be used for development with the help of our mechanism. We are not going to stop, and we plan to develop this direction. An ability to attract a budget ruble to non-budget sources, a very strong team, strong board of directors, and a readiness for changes and to do new projects. So nothing new. Thank you, Sergei Nikolaevich, dear friends. Actually, just wait a little bit, please. The execution is not finalized yet. What I would like to say, this person really has a very strong team, and if we remember, just Evgeny Sergeyevich mentioned what kind of look this company had at the very beginning and what it looks like now. These are principally two different companies. Moreover, the solutions that you need, well, possibly Sergei Nikolaevich has not announced some universal solutions that can suit anything and anyone. But however, I'm firmly convinced that if an issue is there and if we have a question like this, most likely the company will find a very quick approach to the solution of this problem. Well, tell me please, quite recently Rustem Nurgalevich and I discussed a theme. So, by the way, what was the idea to of arrangement with the Volga, and your vessel to be constructed, or you have mentioned that you are ready for anything new. Maybe we will help Tatarstan Republic in construction of this kind of vessel. Well, by the way, we're ready to do anything with Tatarstan. You are kind of some meteors or Chaika. Well, please give the mic to Rustam Nurgalevich. I will give the microphone personally, then you will lose the word, but this will be an important political gesture. Well, let's ask Sergei Nikolaevich for sure. Possibly he's ready to support this important project and invest something. Well, actually, this vessel was designed by Zelenodolsk Design Bureau, and the main thing is that it has gas engine fuel and gas motor fuel, and the most important task to be solved with this vessel, well, here we have heads of regions, and the most important part for the summer season in Siberia and by us, we need to arrange people's transportation. All the ships that are being operated now are in a very poor condition. For that reason, we would like to start this project to locate it in Zelenodolsky factory named after Gorky, and this will be a good step. Just a second. Sergei Nikolaevich, tell me please. Well, it's quite clear. We have this task, and we're in this theme for quite a long time, and we had an order from the minister. He will not run away from us after your order. And I had a question like this. I have started our breakfast with the global project discussion, and I believe that this is one of global projects which is done for my order. This is Corridor Europe, Western China, the road Moscow, Kazan, and further to the south to Samara and Kazakhstan. Well, probably you have studied this project. To what extent it is important today for the Republic, and from economical point of view, what kind of economical effects do you expect? Is there a reasonable project or not? Well, first of all, I would like to express gratitude to the Ministry of Transportation agency. Well, the most important problem that we had was the highway M7. This was kind of road of death. Due to this specified work to the World Championship, this road exists in good condition, but it's too much overloaded. And within the frames of strategic planning, Europe, China, we already have prepared groundwork. So we have the road between M7 and M5. You know that Republic of Tatarstan is actively dealing with the Kazakhstan and Chinese People's Republic, and for us, this road, China, Kazakhstan, Europe, is of strategic importance. And the recent news that we've heard of, construction of new toll road M12, well, of course, within the frames of what was reported by Deputy Minister of Finance, Mr. Ivanov, as to Comrade Ivanov, by the way, for promotion of investments. For someone, he is comrade, for some, he is a master. Well, for you, for us, he is Mr. For you, he is comrade. Well, we believe that any kind of investment project cannot work without transportation connection. And we are waiting for this law for quite a long time. And from 4 to 5 trillion of investments project, we have these large-scale projects. We have shown those, and of course, they are connected to internal infrastructure, which is going to be implemented within the frames of this project. And here we have solutions for capital return, investment return. And of course, we need trunk infrastructure. We have discussed with the Russian railways the development of Kama cluster, Almetivo cluster development, huge project of Kazan cluster development, and the solution that was adopted for construction of automobile road, even though we had kind of disappointment about not everything being prepared for that. But for us, this road is very important. And thank you for this decision. Thank you very much. And dear friends, now I would like to get back to bankers. I give you the microphone so that you would not claim leasing payments to me. Well, now you will not hide. Okay. Okay, Oleg Vladimirovich Pankrotov is with us today. Oleg Vladimirovich, well, what I'm going to ask you about, VTB Bank has lots of infrastructural projects financed, and you participate in the mentioned toll road M11. The main parts, number 7, number 8, the money is from VTB, the management is from VTB. What was said by Rustan Galevich? These new global things, are you ready to invest into those? Have you considered those? Are they reasonable at all? Maybe we should not deal with them at all. Well, first of all, the answer is yes. We are absolutely ready to work with those. For today, VTB Capital is the owner and really has its managerial infrastructure to 10 different projects, starting from port infrastructure to roads, automobile roads, as it was mentioned, the 8th part of M11. We're going to start it next week, actually, and this will be in operation. Also, we invest in such projects as post logistics in airfield sector. We are also present, you know, the Pulkovo airport, which, by the way, we are going to modernize once again. We are going to have phase 2 of this project in the nearest future. And as related to Gelendzhik airport, we can say the same. There is a new construction that we are just starting. And we have started 12 years back. We had a team of 5 people, and today our holding has 7.5 thousand of staff working for the projects which are owned by VTB, not only financing, but actually owned by VTB. And it's out of the question, all these new things we are ready to support, both as investors and creditor. We have attracted to Russian economy within the last 10 years $17 billion to the project. So we are participating. Well, it's quite a considerable sum of money. And it's also very interesting to know that today we have a forum Russia is calling, arranged by VTB Capital, and there was a research published by our analysts. It's mostly oriented for Western investor, but it's an interesting opinion. Like they consider national projects, infrastructural part, first of all, transportation part, and what kind of opinion is there? On the one hand, we spoke a lot about plans being very ambitious, and investments in dollars are like $200 billion. And what was their opinion? We can do that, absolutely, but of course it will create effect. However, if we consider the position of Russia as to the quality of infrastructure and where it should be actually, and now we do not need like 200 billion, but $1 trillion. But their opinion that $1 trillion is also possible of course, in foreign currency, including foreign currency. Well, and I would like to add a few words about the market condition itself. Now, this is a very good time for financing projects. In particular, due to the order of central bank, it's not a secret that we refinance some of our projects. First of all, Pulkovo is almost ready for refinancing. There will be refinancing with the decrease of the interest rate. We also consider railway projects, and we will see considerable decrease of the rates. And I cannot but mention, well, first of all, the market is in a very good condition, and I believe that for today, the projects I don't know, like 200 billion rubles can be financed, can be implemented completely for the private investment. This is a unique situation for the 12-year period at the Russian market. We have not seen this situation before. And I would like to speak about uniqueness of the project financing of Russian Federation, because today this is the tool that can allow to have maximum stake at the market level and at the same time to completely receive profit from the expected decrease of the stake announced by the central bank. We are using this instrument and we will continue doing this. And just a few words about the law, if I may. Well, I don't know. We have Andrei Yurievich, who is also going to have the floor. I would like to join to what has been mentioned. It's very important from the point of view of concession to leave believe the operating tools that we have because as they are, because I was very happy to listen that this is actually the idea, and I like the idea of establishing the registry. We believe it is very important because normally we all have some liabilities to compensate all the damages for the investor in case of the agreement is terminated, and possibly some bonds can be used. Banking financing is dominating, even though bonds were used for that very M11, and now they make like a minor part. But I would like to have more of those. Well, thank you, and you could hear the recommendation of our best investors, and I believe that it will be heard during the process of upgrade, and I believe that the law is going to be modified, and we are really waiting for these offers to be included into the law. And I would like to ask honorable heads of the regions, because actually this business breakfast is a session for you, as long as we are very close to the conclusion of our breakfast. I would like to have tea or coffee if you have not had time for that yet, as we're going to have a very interesting and busy day. But my main request to heads of the regions is like this. You see that from the point of view of Ministry of Finance, the amounts of investments into transportation infrastructure are assessed in a very prospective way. From the point of view of our honorable investors, bankers, today this is one of the most prospective and prioritized markets where we can attract private investments. And I believe you understand that these wonderful songs I'm singing not because I want everything to grow and develop, because I have some specified figure for growth of investments. However, if to leave the jokes apart, the possibility for these issues are much greater than we had like 3, 4, or 5 years ago. We have money, we have technologies, and actually now it's your turn to act. Now we have faced the situation that having tried to start new projects, something truly new and interesting, some qualitatively new infrastructure, we face a situation that we do not have prerequisites to do that, to implement that. We do not have necessary project documentation amount. We do not have financial economical elaborations. We come to a conclusion that we should do something, and our colleague Anishenko is sitting here being a head of analytical center. Last year he was successfully speaking, and now I'm not going to give him the floor. He will show him during the dancing part, and he is analyzing all the projects that you are preparing, whether it's possible to include them into the comprehensive plan of upgrading trunk infrastructure. All the genius ideas, well elaborated or very well elaborated, are directed to his table, and main issues, main questions that are asked are related to the fact that the model is not very well elaborated, project documentation is not there, and we have nothing to look at. Well, of course, honorable heads of subjects of the Russian Federation, I cannot prevent you from steps that you are doing during your work. You offer projects important to the regions, to our government. They agree with you, but I would ask you, before you prepare some letters or figures, before you create these documents, please elaborate these projects with some primary degree of detailization, very thoroughly. If then we come to the idea that we cannot implement this project, we will get too much tired to try to explain why we have not done what we have promised. And in order to elaborate these projects thoroughly and in a very detailed manner, not only analytical center at the government of the Russian Federation can provide you assistance, but our long-term partners. Please share how it is done right now. How do you consider the projects? Are there any models that can be offered for the regions to have finance from the point of view of budget financing or something like that? Can you recommend us something? Well, yes, of course. Good morning. Thank you very much. I'll try to focus on a couple of key theses. When I was a small boy, I came to my granddad. I was very emotional, and he explained me the difference between two words, a word of problem and uncompleted work. And when I grew up, I understood what he actually meant. The idea is as follows. So yesterday we had plenary sessions, and now I'm speaking not about the law, but about the figures that were mentioned. All the speakers out of those who we cannot fail to trust or who it is dangerous not to trust. They said that bank accounts had more than 30 trillion rubles at the bank accounts of the population, and for the whole new Russia we only need 20. So that is the task of macro level looks like this: how this money can be allocated to economy, to infrastructural economy first and foremost. At the micro level, this task looks like this: if central bank year to year tells us that Russian banks and funds are ready to finance within the range of preliminary assessed money to infrastructural projects like 700 billion rubles, and annually the industry takes namely investment money not more than 120 billion, so that this gap of 500 something billion rubles is the money which are now controlled by investment projects, and the difference between how we operate efficiently and what is happening in real life, the difference in rubles is minus 550 billion rubles, which are annually transferred for the next year, for the next year, and for the next year. So transportation industry is out of the question, is the center of investment, but this actually fire can continue burning with additional money. Where can we find additional money, additional kind of wood for this fire? Well, we tried to assess, we made a research to assess number of projects which for transportation line can be claimed by private businesses in units, and we got a result that annual state system represented by Ministry of Transportation, Ministry of Economy, Ministry of Finance, banks, so the whole industry is ready to digest like 110 applications and concessions which are initiated by businesses, and annually we have only 10, so we work 10% of our capacity. So we have a following result: there are some wishes expressed by the state and there is money. The contest procedures take quite a long time, and the best way for business is to initiate together with the subjects or initiate by itself, and simultaneously we'll have a results that instead of initiating, business makes the same circles around the state bodies, asking whether they can initiate. The law says that they can initiate, and the applications are like 90% that can be additionally brought into finance, and the assessment is like 550 billion rubles annually as assessed by the central bank, if I may say so. And the second thesis, what can be done related to this? Again, appeal to my grandfather. Well, try to understand the material explanation and know all the details. If the cost of the question is 550 billion rubles, who out of people present here have read at least once the law about concessions and the laws about private-public partnership from the end to the very beginning? There are only 50 pages, and finally we get as follows. So we read lots of papers and 2 drafts of laws, which are 550 billion rubles, are not considered by anyone present here.
Well, I would say that out of the people presented here, out of the heads of different organizations, we are not supposed to do that. But at the same time, some first questions that we address to our senior colleagues, we first of all ask them whether they actually understand what they are talking about. So when we talk today about Igor Evgenievich, when he only started to work with concessions, he was the one who tailored that law and who promoted that law. That is why I think that he is our point of competence is number one, Oleg Valentinovich, and you. So I'm not gonna just say good words to you, something just trying to please you. No, but it's true that Oleg Valentinovich, for example, disseminated information about all these concessions, and Mr. Hermagin, he also looked through the law very attentively and asked other people around him to find out all the ins and outs about all those laws. These are our major points of competences. And of course, they were looking for new investments and searching for cover this gap of 150,000 million rubles, they decided to do that. And they were fully aware of the market opportunities, of the players' opportunities. And this is just a mathematical part of the matter. And also, sometimes you have to push others to understand and to find out more about what's going on around. I would say that 90 projects per year and 550 billion rubles per year, that's a lot. Yesterday we also had some public hearings regarding different regarding such funds, and we should say that this is quite the right amount of funds that should be allocated for that matter. You know that Chinese like spaghetti, Europeans like pasta, and today we were served pancakes. So of course you cannot just invite Chinese investors and say, please eat pancakes if they want some spaghetti, and we cannot oblige Europeans to eat pancakes if they want to eat pasta, for example. We have laws regarding state and private cooperation, as well as concessions and so on and so forth. You need to understand that these are different things and three types of investments, three types of investors and three types of projects. And at the same time, where the state wants to create one unified reporting or accounting system in order to register all the obligations of the state, this is the sole right of the government. Another thing that we shouldn't, transform investment cuisine into like a fusion of spaghetti, pasta, pancakes, sushi, etc., because it is not the right thing if you want to deal with the investors you want. So yesterday I listened to parliamentarians, to the public hearings, and I understood a lot of things. And we should really expand our set of instruments, but we should come up with the right quotes in the concessions, in the state-private partnership, something that hasn't been done yet. But at the same time, you need to use new instruments. Why? Because right now the transport community can have all the three components, but it also would be nice to, on top of those three instruments, to use all the resources and the funds to its maximum and the peak of efficiency. Thank you very much. I would say that the expansion of our transport menu that goes together with our business breakfast is to the benefit of everyone. But at the same time, it's very important to make sure that all the lines in this menu are cooked really well, and they are really tasty for all of us. I am absolutely persuaded that today we won't be poisoned even if we think about something that we ate today. But you need to understand really all the details regarding transport infrastructure and all the relevant things. And sometimes when you bring together incompatible things that cannot be compatible with each other, this is not a good thing. So we are very close to the final notes, and I would like to go through some major theses that we discussed today. The first one is about the importance of the frontward or upward movements. But to do that, we need to have a very strong team with a clear segregation of all the roles. And in order to move forward, we also need to have a certain level of stability. It's important for each of us. If the project is well structured, is well regulated, then there is no need to change the conditions afterwards, part of the working process, in order to cast a doubt on whether or not we actually are supposed to deal with different customers. And another important thesis that would also outline was that, yes, we have a lot of funds, a lot of money, and some time ago we were thinking about transport complex and probably that we lacked some investment. No, right now we do have enough resources, have enough funds, but in order to really cover all those needs, we need to allocate those funds in the right and efficient way, and we need to manage all those financial opportunities very correctly as part of our transport menu. And I would say that today we're going to use this platform to discuss all those things. We need to talk to investment consultants, representative of the banking service, about some deeds that have already been accomplished. And it's very important to talk with major speakers for them to talk a little bit more on their performance. I hope that you really like this breakfast, that you like the tea and coffee, and the investment menu was was also nice. Hope to see you in a year, and we'll talk a little bit to those who haven't yet taken the floor as part of this business breakfast. Wish you a good day. Thank you.
Уважаемые участники 9-го Международного конгресса «Эра ГЛОНАСС», приглашаем вас занимать места в зале.
We invite you to take your seats, dear guests.
Уважаемые участники 9-го
Dear participants of the 9th International Congress Era GLONASS, please kindly take your seats.
Уважаемые участники, просим вас...
Dear participants, please take your seats.
Уважаемые участники, просим вас...
Dear participants, please take your seats.
Приветствуем гостей.
We welcome the guests and participants of the 9th International Congress Era GLONASS, Technologies for People, Business and State. The welcoming word will be provided by Sergei Ivanov, the special representative of the President of the Russian Federation for Environmental Activities and Transport. Good morning, dear friends and colleagues. I remember very well that about 10 or 15 years ago, we started an enormous project together with you. It involved the establishment of the GLONASS system on the whole, and ERA GLONASS in particular. It seemed to be very challenging. There were a lot of issues to resolve, but we did all of that, and today GLONASS is our everyday word. People know what GLONASS is, at least the majority of people. GLONASS works successfully not only in the defense industry, but in the entire transport sector. And it starts working and functioning more and more in car insurance, in map designing. And even now we can feel that the capabilities of GLONASS are limitless. As to the specific project, ERA GLONASS, it has two very important functions. The first one is the social function, protecting life, ensuring road safety. And its second function is the digitalization of the entire road traffic and approval of its condition. We had 26,000 calls to the ERA GLONASS system, including 19,000 in automatic mode. And specialists are aware of what an automatic mode means. This means that there has been a very serious accident and the driver or the passenger are unable to push the button and the system transfers the signal automatically. It's very difficult to calculate human lives, but according to specialists, ERA GLONASS helps save 3,000 to 4,000 lives annually. I don't like high-flown words, but we really mean human lives that have been saved. Some of the calls do not involve emergencies or accidents. Sometimes the car wouldn't start. Sometimes a driver got lost and pushed the button. But there is a response to any calls in the ERA GLONASS system. And I think that this system will keep developing. As of today, ERA GLONASS equipment is provided for 4.6 million cars. And this number is going to grow, of course. And in some regions, in Tatarstan, for example, all school buses are equipped with GLONASS systems on a mandatory basis, as well as ambulances, patrol police cars, and emergency cars. If there is an accident, then the nearest vehicle of one of those three emergency services will reach the accident point very quickly. Right now, the ERA GLONASS system is actively involved in the environment protection. I'm talking about garbage collection. I would like to thank once again everyone who has been involving in advancing GLONASS and ERA GLONASS and promoting this system. I hope that next year it will be not 4.6 million cars, but dozens of millions of cars. Thank you very much. The introduction will be provided by Yevgeny Dietrich, the Minister of Transport of the Russian Federation, member of the Board of Directors of the GLONASS Shareholding Society. Good morning, dear friends. I think you will support my request to say thank you very much to Sergei for starting this initiative. He was the initiator and the pioneer of this system. It was under his leadership that the ERA GLONASS system appeared. And everything we are discussing today is entirely his merit. Thank you very much, Sergei, for supporting the transport system, for being in the loop of our transport issues. This is really important. And I would like to join the words of introduction that have been said. The fact that ERA GLONASS exists, the fact that this technology exists, is something that we are really proud of. This is a Russian initiative which is not worse at all than what is used abroad. And I would say that our technology is even better in a number of ways. Today, the ERA GLONASS system, as a system which is designed to save human lives in accidents and emergencies, is functioning. Last year, the number of cars equipped with ERA GLONASS grew by 50%. Last year, the number of calls using ERA GLONASS also grew. And a national project for providing safe roads was implemented. This project is focused on reducing accidents on the road, and ERA GLONASS is involved in this project as well. And in an emergency situation, even if no one died or suffered, and even if a driver is not in a critical situation, they still understand that there is always an operator connected, and the operator is always ready for rescue or to send rescue if there is such a need. And so today, we do need to develop the potential of the ERA GLONASS system. We have also repeatedly discussed, and we are going to discuss today, some issues involving further development of this system. This system has the status of a government-owned automatic IT system, which is why it has the capability to provide additional services, ensure the work of various smart transport systems. There is also big data database, which is huge, and its potential is huge. Moreover, what we are promoting today is the functioning of this system on the external markets. And ERA GLONASS system has the potential of functioning globally. Its potential is huge. I would like to wish everyone success at our today's forum. I hope we will have many new ideas. We will make new contacts after these discussions. We will find and develop new solutions as part of our work. Good luck and have a great forum. The word of introduction will be provided by the Minister of Innovation and Technological Development of the Republic of Serbia. Dear colleagues, dear friends, I think that international cooperation in the area of using the most state-of-the-art technologies is really crucial, and ERA GLONASS is the most advanced and state-of-the-art technology today. It is tremendously important for the government, and as is written here, it's really very important for ordinary people. The social significance of these technologies is huge. After the visit of Vladimir Putin, the Russian president, to Serbia, 17 agreements were signed, including 7 agreements involving digital technologies, advanced technologies. And in this context of all those documents signed, serious work is ongoing with respect to innovations and new technologies. And I'm happy to say that after these several visits of Serbian experts to Moscow, this work is continuing. And furthermore, GLONASS specialists have already been to Serbia, and we expect that an agreement will be signed before the end of this year between GLONASS and the government of Serbia. It's very important that this new technology is present on other markets, and we are sure that GLONASS will soon be present in Serbia. This is indeed a remarkable technology. It's the best technology to help people, to help the government. And I would like to remind you of the social aspect of this technology once again. I would like to remind you that a delegation from Serbia will be present at round tables today. We will exchange our opinions, and we will work with companies that are located in Moscow, but we will also cooperate with the regions of Russia. And I would like to wish everyone great and successful work, and I hope we will have successful international cooperation. Thank you. The floor is given to Igor Miloszewski, the General Director and member of the Board of Directors of the GLONASS Shareholding Society. Good morning, dear colleagues. We recently started writing the history of establishment of the GLONASS system. We decided to write when it was first established, how it developed, the GLONASS and the ERA GLONASS system. There will be many names there, and we believe that it's very important to mention all those names and the legendary role of the founders of those projects is really visible there. I would like to say a word of gratitude to Sergei Ivanov for attending this forum. I would also like to thank the Minister of Transport, Yevgeny. We are welcoming each other today at the 13th International Transport Forum and the 9th International Congress of ERA GLONASS, which brings together representatives from businesses, the government. And we hope that there will be many interesting discussions today involving the development of IT, the system of emergency response to accidents aims at reducing the number of people killed or suffering on the roads. And this systematic development of ERA GLONASS also focuses on transformation, digital transformation of the transport sector. Our mission, as we see it, is developing the infrastructure of our company so that the potential for growth of businesses is provided, as well as additional services based on this infrastructure. I wish all the participants of this Congress successful work, a successful week. Thank you very much for your support and participation. The plenary session discussions will be attended by Vyacheslav Port, member of the Board of Experts of the Industry of the Russian Federation, Sergei Morozov, the governor of the Ulyanovsk region, Dmitry Mitroshin, head of the Institution for Traffic Road Safety of the Ministry of the Interior of Russia, Boris Kisulenko, the chairman of the Global Forum for Harmonization of Transport Regulations in the UNECE, Ilya Axelrod, a member of the board of directors of GLONASS, Andrei Tikhonov, head of the security department of the Internet of Things, Kaspersky Laboratory, Roman Chernin, head of Yandex Geoservices, Roman Rulov, head of department, GLONASS Subscriber Service, Igor Yastigneev, head of Promising System Department, Автодор. The moderator of the plenary discussion is Mikhail Blinkin, chairman of the Public Council at the Ministry of Transport, director of the Institute for Transport and Transport Policy Economics at the Higher School of Economics. Hello, dear colleagues. Before I start moderating this conference, I would like to share two considerations. We are celebrating the 210th anniversary of the transport system of Russia, which used to be the Russian Empire. This ministry has always been very forward-looking. Just one example, in 1896, the then Minister of Transport of the Russian Empire approved an order on autonomous vehicles moving along the roads of the Russian Federation. And once again, it was 1896, and it was the first order about cars. It was even before the Ford Revolution. So the Russian Ministry of Transport was always forward-looking, and it looked ahead of the technical progress. And there is another consideration. There is a special ranking with respect to the number of gadgets, and Russia is among top 10 countries in terms of the availability of mobile gadgets, smartphones, and so on. So it's in the 5th or 6th place. As for car roads, we are unfortunately in the second 100. As part of the Transport Congress, we are traditionally holding another GLONASS session here, and this is why this is child's dream. I hope that Russia's position and ranking in terms of mobile gadget availability and roads will be closer to each other. I hope that this gap will disappear. So this is my hope, and I'm going to start with that.
Now, the first presentation to be made by the Deputy Director General of GLONASS is Mr. Axelrod. This will be a presentation with the actual presentation, the standard format. As for the rest of the speakers, I hope it's going to be an interactive dialogue. Unfortunately, oftentimes it's the case for big conferences. It's a whole range of presentations. Well, there'll be just one presentation in our case, and then we'll have a dialogue. So Mr. Axelrod, he is going to talk about the digital future, and over to you. Good morning, dear participants of this Congress. There's a lot of you. Happy to see you all here, and I'll be happy to share what I have. About 5 years ago, in the end of 2014, all participants of the GLONASS project were really busy getting ready for commissioning. Top managers, businessmen, engineers, everyone. Everyone was involved in this process. So in a month and a half, we are going to celebrate the 5-year anniversary. So it's the 9th Congress, however, it's a jubilee of sort. So for all these years, this system has been saving lives, preventing damage and saving health of our citizens in different situations and ensuring safety. Of course, we had a number of triggers for digitalization, and we have created homemade equipment, and we have now more jobs for different specialists, including engineers. We know the numbers, and once again, here they are. The major figures are on the screen. So, respect and big thank you goes to all the people involved in these achievements. This is very big, very important, but GLONASS is much more than it used to be in the beginning. In the beginning, when it was just an idea, we were thinking about reliability and full and multi-MVNO system. In the beginning, that was part of the design before the launch, but now we have much more. We have new functions, we have new capabilities and new ideas behind all of this. First of all, this is the universal monitoring system that monitors all kinds of transport, employees, and the system has been successfully tested on dozens of thousands of vehicles, routes, and has been used for monitoring of buses and their movements during the football championship and for cargo transit. It tells us that the capabilities are huge and it has a very promising future when it gets to commercial projects for businessmen and for different kinds of transportation of cargo and when it gets to transportation corridors. But we are going to talk about that later today during one of the round tables where we are going to discuss transport corridors. And this system is also suitable for regional purposes. And today we're going to sign 3 agreements with Astrakhan, Orenburg, and others regions. We're going to discuss and sign these agreements. And there will be another round table also devoted to regional issues. So I invite you to join us. It's going to be quite interesting. Another element of the GLONASS system is precision location. It means that we have now much more in common with the idea that I mentioned earlier in the very beginning. The system has been implemented in a number of regions, but very soon we will go to the federal level based on the Russian development. And it's going to be a product of Russian engineers, and we are very proud of it. Another element of the system is transferring information. It means that the system will be used for financial and many other services like insurance and this kind of transmission will help you get insurance for different purposes, and insurance companies will not be able to get incorrect information. And they'll be able to provide proper insurance services. So basically, this is the turnkey solution for infrastructure, and this is a very powerful tool for managing the transportation system as a whole. And in order to understand how can we properly and efficiently use this system, well, the answer lies in the dialogue between the government and representatives of the industry. And I think this can be used and reused many times. But we do not stop there. We have announced signing of another agreement with the Tele2 company in order to improve reliability even further and in order to expand the use of this system. The SIM profile of GLONASS is already installed in most of the vehicles in Russia. Well, at the moment it's used for emergency purposes only, but we already have some successful examples, and we are actively working on it in order to expand the area of application. And we're conducting tests. We have established dialogue with vehicle manufacturers, so we have advanced in this. And oftentimes information exchange issue is touched upon. What are the capability, what are the options, what are the risks for drivers and for the society? If we keep interacting with each other using safe channels, then some of the risks and some of the questions will be eliminated. And hopefully today we'll be able to touch upon this. Of course, I can't help but mention another very important element which is been a very important part of our activity when we have discussed it recently in Kazakhstan. But we are actually moving towards building an international cooperation platform where all countries will be able to join this platform, and the driver in this case will be able to rely on the system in any situation. I want our discussion during this Congress to be open, transparent, and interesting. So thank you once again. We invite you to join us and to work with us, because we want to have more services, GLONASS-based services. And our main goal is people, human beings. So thank you very much. Actually, don't go just yet. I have a question from moderator. We know that we have 4.6 million cars, and in order to get closer to 50% and 100%, what needs to be done? Money, somebody will have to spend that, or technical capability of the system, for example. So what's the key? Well, I think the key is the social element, the social factor, because from the technical and organizational standpoint, GLONASS is not only about new cars, it's also about cars that are already being used. Working with the population, that's important, because it's about the individual interests of every driver. And there must be a balance between safety and let's say, personal finance of every driver. That's what we're talking about. Okay, question for mass media. From the computer technological standpoint, there'll be as many cars as possible in the system, yes? Yes. Okay, so the system is quite capable of embedding and social aspects, financial and are there obstacles? Yes, but technical capabilities are endless, no borders. Okay, thank you very much. I would now like to give floor to our next speaker, and actually I have a question right away. I don't think you need to go anywhere. Okay, so digital transformation of the country. And that's been voiced by the president of the country. And we have a specific system, that's why we're here, and what's what we are here for. So how important is this cell from the political standpoint and from the technical point as well? Okay, I understand. Thank you. Well, I remember how GLONASS system had been implemented, and my colleague Sergei was in the very beginning. From the very start, he was there, and we had an idea, and now we have a system up and running, and we have completely different goals now. So my personal opinion is that this is a state-owned, automated system. GLONASS is a high-tech system, one of a kind. It's based on the cutting-edge technology, navigation, microelectronics, accelerated processing of information, data, and the government of the Russian Federation pays a great attention to this system. And they are after the further development of this system. The government has identified 17 areas that are important to our country. And some of the systems must rely on GLONASS, the system that is already up and running. That's what I wanted to say. Another thing, we know that in May 2018, the president signed a decree about accelerated development of Russia. That's point number one. We need to increase number of entities using high-tech and innovative technologies. That's two. We need to digitalize different spheres of our lives. We need to take a look at different industries and create breakthrough areas or disruptive areas. And we have a number of national projects, and safety on the roads and good roads, housing, environment, digital economy, and many, many other areas. That's what we need to focus on, and that's what we are currently working on. And GLONASS is a starting point. It's a high-tech, innovative platform. Speaking about transport safety in Russia, we know that it's applied everywhere, in the air, on sea, in space, and of course, here on Earth. We have municipal authorities, and I think everyone is switching to GLONASS system, which saves a lot of money. But, well, that's not the first point, but what's most important is saving lives. We're monitoring the speed. We are monitoring drivers. We are now capable of helping people very quickly and get promptly to the site should there be a need for it. So I think that this system is a well-protected system, and it has a very promising future. And you were absolutely right. It has endless capabilities. Okay, one more question, if I may. Do you think this system is self-sufficient, and how self-sufficient it is? As compared to, well, let's say, other global systems. So how independent are we? How independent are we from software of other countries and equipment of other countries? Oh, it's a question to me. Yes, it's a question to you. Well, actually, that's what we are currently working on. And my colleagues are focusing on that. And we have a really good platform, foundation. But at the moment, we are working in cooperation with the others. We are working on import substitution in key industries. That's number one. And we want to go global with what we have. And we have intellectual potential of our military and industrial complex. So that's what we are currently working on. Okay, Vyacheslav, you've just mentioned, and previous speakers mentioned that as well. Working in cooperation with and interaction with and high tech and safety on roads. I think in the last several years we've managed to make a big step, and number of fatalities on the road has decreased, and at the moment it's about 15% less than before. But in order to achieve targeting indicators specified in the national project, that's still yet to be achieved, not yet done. Still a lot of work to be done. And I know that there's one person who's in charge of this and knows it all. So, Dmitry, a question to you. What do you think about safety, numbers and facts, and digitalization? Does it have any impact, or is there any significant input? So thank you. What do you think about that? Well, thank you, Mikhail. Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues. Well, you know this pretty well that if you remember, in May, President has instructed the ministry to implement the project related to safety on the roads and reduce number of fatalities. The target is 0 fatalities by 2030. So these goals are quite ambitious. They are not easy ones. I see you being skeptical about this. Yes, it's challenging, and at the same time I think it's possible. It took 30-40 years for some countries to achieve that. But the Ministry of Interior and Ministry of Transportation are the key players in this project. And as for Ministry of Interior, we need to achieve these goals. And we are the key player probably in this. So as for the measures and resources, I think we've exhausted the list. We've exhausted them all, so we need something innovative, something new in order to achieve these goals. So as for the mechanism of the digitalization, I'm not sure we understand the full capacity that is there, that is hidden somewhere. So as for GLONASS, I don't want to sound banal, but you know, help in timely fashion is critical for saving people's life. Just one fact. We need to provide help in time, and we can reduce response time. But the goals are ambitious, and here the potential of the system is huge.
So if we can fully implement this system as it was designed, I believe that we are going to make a big step forward to achieve this goal. But I would not think just about this goal alone. I believe that the potential for digitalization and the potential of GLONASS in ensuring road safety is underappreciated. And this system really enables the precision of positioning. And I think this mechanism could be used to study the road accident patterns very well so that we can build a system of preventing such accidents. That's just one of the options. Once again, I need to repeat, I believe there is huge potential there, and it's up to the Ministry of the Interior and the Road Police Service to study this potential and to tap it. And I think our colleagues will help us here. Thank you. So, in fact, there has been a very deep thought, which is the following. If we fully digitalize this whole pattern, and if we have a deeper insight of the road accident patterns, then we can prevent those accidents. That's a very interesting thought. Thank you. Now we will continue this topic, road traffic safety in the digital age. And I give the floor to Mr. Morozov, the governor of the Ulyanovsk region, who has been heading a representative council for transport carriage. A few words from you, Sergey. While considering the specificities of your region. Thank you very much. Dear Mikhail, I would like to thank the organizers sincerely for the opportunity to remember how it all started, but also to say where we are today and how we need to move on if we want to stay healthy, to feel comfort when driving, and if we want to live safely. I fully agree with Sergey, who said in his introductory remarks that human safety should be the focus. It is the human that should be the focus, and I think everyone will agree with that. And in this regard, dear colleagues, we don't have the minister here, but I think he will hear us. And I would like to utter words of gratitude to Sergey, and the President and Prime Minister have also paid a lot of attention to roads. We've been working with Vyacheslav on this for a long time, and we remember well how it all started. In the beginning of the year 2000, just 60 million rubles was provided for repair of roads in the region. And now it's more than 6 billion rubles. And as a result, the quality of roads improved considerably. Right now, almost 50% of municipal, regional, and interregional roads meet the government requirements and standards. Of course, if we use digital technologies, then it will be even better. And this is why I'm sincerely grateful to the leadership of GLONASS for their active implementation of their program in the regions of Russia. One of such programs is the monitoring of road safety in the regions, and this allowed us to address a lot of tasks very quickly, such as the meteorological surveillance or a system of registering violations of road traffic rules. It's not enough, of course. We are looking at our region right now, and I noticed that recently more cars are equipped with the ERA GLONASS system, and as a result, response is faster when there is an accident. But we can't stop there. I suggest that the functionality of this system is increased. We should also monitor the speed of vehicles, and if the cars drive too fast and violate the speed limit, then it will also result in more deaths. The roads became very good, the cars became better, and that's why the cars drive fast. But there is also another aspect here. We're also talking about the human, about people. So I believe that an efficient measure, along with digitalization, would be more road police patrols. We have looked at our region, and we can see there that the number of road police officers should be 1,785 people, and it's only 400 police officers today. Even if we use digital technologies, we don't have enough police officers to ensure road safety. It's also important for the regions to act. For example, the Moscow region took a decision to create its own road police inspection. And of course, the modern police officers should be equipped with the state-of-the-art technologies. And I believe that this offer from Era GLONASS in terms of resolving the managerial issues that we have in the road safety area will help us live in comfort and safety. Thank you. Actually, this is a matter of traditional discussion. The number of police officers on the roads or digital technologies. The global trend is that there should be fewer police officers and that digital technologies should be more sophisticated. So I don't think there will be more police officers in the world. Let us ask a representative from the Ministry of the Interior. Will we have more police officers on the roads? Is there a chance for that? Can you tell us? Thank you very much for your trust. It's beyond my competence, unfortunately. Well, what do you think about this? What's your take on that? You're a research expert. Well, the problem is understandable. Unfortunately, it's not up to me to resolve this issue. And all the processes going on in the country are sometimes beyond our control. Of course, digitalization and digital technologies and GLONASS are the resources which are not fully used in terms of ensuring road safety and as a tool of replacing police officers who are working on our roads. We understand very well that a web camera, a road camera, can resolve a lot of issues. Global positioning technologies can resolve issues. For example, if there are road rule violations. But unfortunately, humans cannot be fully replaced in the foreseeable future. For example, when you need to see or to identify a drunk driver, and when we talk about road safety and safety driving, the equipment can't assess all the aspects of this phenomenon. So we really take and are doing everything possible in order to at least to maintain the number of police officers working. But we do need help, and we are expecting this help from equipment, from technology. And you have a lobbyist. And we have our next goal. We have another segment. It's just a few thousand kilometers in Russia. That's very high quality roads, which are toll roads, and you need to pay for passing them, for driving on them. And we have a colleague from Avtodor, and I have this cunning question to him. We have these great roads with excellent intersections where it's impossible to have any accidents. Are there any issues with road safety there? Those roads are really safe. They are designed to be safe in terms of intersections and everything. So is there any issue with those toll roads? Thank you. Thank you very much. Good morning, dear colleagues. It's a simple question, but it's quite a complex one at the same time. Of course, we take every effort to ensure road safety, and the number of accidents on our roads is falling objectively, and this confirms that we do everything in order to monitor the technical condition on those roads. But as we analyze the types of accidents, we can see that we have the most serious accidents in daytime, in ideal weather conditions, on straight parts of the roads with little traffic. As a rule, the accidents are the most dramatic and result in the greatest number of human losses. So unfortunately, there is a kind of psychological effect. When a driver drives on a high-quality road, he understands that everything is great, that they can drive at a speed of 130 kilometers per hour. The road is straight, excellent, and then the driver relaxes. So when a person understands that they are comfortable, they lose vigilance, and that's what we have been facing on our roads. Let us think together what to do here. For the time being, I have no answer to that question. But to be honest, the positive experience of the GLONASS system is that, well, first I like the GLONASS team. I like their slogan, human, business, and government. And human or people are in the first place there in this motto. And the main purpose here is the response time, because when you get the signal, you need to get very quickly to that place. Emergency vehicles should get there very quickly. The government owned company has its own service of rescue people, rescue specialists, and GLONASS signal should go not only to the emergency systems and services, but also to our road traffic center. This is different for different roads, but we have a road section where our teams, our crews are working around the clock. And of course, our rescue services will get to this place much faster than the ambulance or the emergency specialists. So this is what we see here. I think that this is where we can work together with the GLONASS system. We're really interested in getting those emergency signals from GLONASS. And there is a great number of calls which are not directly connected with an accident. For example, a driver is out of petrol, or a person is lost, or there is a technical deficiency, a car wouldn't start. And this is why we have our emergency experts who will drive to that place and rescue people. We can do something else together with the GLONASS system. We're active proponents of free-flow systems. We do our best to introduce those systems on Moscow ring roads, but we are also thinking about our next step. As has been mentioned today, a lot of roads are equipped with GLONASS systems, but too few roads for now. And reality has shown that in 5 or 8 years, we are going to have 50% of roads covered with this system. The earlier, the better, of course. And then we can think seriously about a transfer from one system to the other. We will still have the free flow system, but the technical solution will use not the transponders, but the GLONASS blocks. And then it will be a giant leap forward in terms of the quality of toll roads in Russia. There are other important aspects. For example, pilot parts or pilot sections of roads have been created for automated movement of vehicles. And of course, the role of GLONASS in terms of ensuring those high precision positioning systems is paramount for us, which is why I believe that we have a lot of work to do in terms of cooperation of GLONASS and our company. Thank you very much. And I have another question for the end of this discussion. Is it important for you that all the road users are equipped with GLONASS equipment on toll roads such as M4 or M11? Or is it not so important for you? Well, important for what? You have your own independent system. It is independent from what the car drivers have. Well, we're always lacking something, and if the GLONASS system will give us more data, if it ensures comfort, if it will increase safety, that's very good. We are open for any systems which help us resolve these tasks. A task can't be fulfilled by 100%. We really hope that the GLONASS system will help us considerably in resolving those issues. Thank you very much. And we have another presentation by Mr. Chernin, the Yandex GeoService leader. Geoinformation services have been a very good trend because right now these technologies are a must, and no student cannot finish a university without being able to use those technologies. My students are well aware of this. So in terms of safety, what features do you help to ensure more safety? Thank you very much. A lot has been said about road safety today, and it's even written here in this session announcement that a human being is in the center of attention, and we have 50 million of registered cars, but maybe there are 40 or 45 million cars that are actively used. And non-professional drivers can drive up to 2 hours per day in the city.
So we're not talking about long distance, we're talking about just the city. So there's an interesting figure that we found. With Yandex Navigator in the last year, our users have gone 90 billion kilometers, which is quite a lot. If you think about regular standard citizen, very busy, he is very limited. His attention span is very limited. He knows, he or she, that they need to be very careful while driving, but quite recently we've done a survey. We took a driver, we put him in a car, and we sent him to the Moscow city and to the third ring, and we had an eye tracking device on them so that we could track where his attention is. And what do you think about the road signs? We have spent so many efforts and time on road signs, but how much attention does the driver actually pay on this? And the answer is very little attention is paid to these road signs. And, well, it would have been strange to say that we have digital tools. But we do. We do have a lot of digital tools in order to address this limited attention span. Sorry to interrupt. You're talking about road signs in the city? Yes. Well, I'm a very experienced. I don't pay attention to road signs. I'm looking at traffic lights. What else do I need? Well, for example, you have speed limiting. Okay, well, that's too simple. Okay, another example. Let me boast just a little bit. In August, we had a very important release. We have released another product, and perhaps you've heard about this while driving or while in a school area, with signs saying, careful, or attention, children. Some drivers are not paying attention to that, but if you have voice system, voice alarm, that changes the situation just a little bit. Today we've been talking a lot about GLONASS system, and on a very basic level, what is the big objective behind this? Well, this system connects the vehicle. It means that there's a system inside the car, inside the vehicle, that connects this vehicle to a much bigger system. But that's just the first step. We need to go further to make sure that our car, our vehicle, and the driver could use different tools, more services targeted at achieving safety. For example, in Yandex, we are working on Yandex Auto or Yandex Auto system that, to a certain extent, addresses this problem, this issue. There's another very simple thing. Any driver, and I'm sure we have plenty of drivers here in the audience, when a driver gets into the car, he tries to be more connected. How? You attach your phone to the car, and this car, this vehicle, becomes more connected because you have navigation inside it. Is it a good solution? Is it a safe solution from the standpoint of user? Well, maybe not. Maybe it's not perfect, because we well know that you get texts while you're driving or making a very important and difficult turn, and for example, you look what the other driver is doing, and he's like that because his phone fell on the floor and he's trying to find it. So yes, this system is there, but it's not perfect. It's not the best user experience. So we are trying to work and focus more on the systems that can be embedded or installed, and I think we are moving in the right direction. We need a bigger screen for multitasking. You have navigation, you have multimedia, I don't know, phone, they're disconnected. And this system has a feedback, and it's not only about external communication, but from infrastructure, from other vehicles, from other participants of the process. Information comes to you. Last but not least, what I wanted to say that now it's 2019. We all have smartphones. They have transformed our life a great deal. We have more services, but cars, vehicles, they're still connected through attaching your phone to the car or on the panel, sticking your phone on the panel. Or some might say that there's a lot to be done in terms of regulation as well. And last week there was a big forum devoted to the artificial intelligence. Somebody said that regulation may be limited or may be stimulating for new industries the latter is more important. So we need to think about this. What else do we need to stimulate what we're currently working on to make our vehicles smarter and drivers' experience to be better and to make all of this safer? And regulation should be rolled out not only to hardware, because a lot has been done for localization and other things, but it's about hardware, mostly. And I think there's a huge potential in software and services in order to achieve those noble goals that we've voiced today. Thank you. Well, thank you, Roman. Well, you sounded optimistic. Thank you for that. 90 billion kilometers. Unbelievable. Actually, it's not 90, but 60 according to simple math. Well, we didn't take Moscow only. Ah, okay. Okay. We were looking at whole Russia. Oh, that makes a difference. Okay, international cooperation. That's extremely interesting because all our systems, by definition, by default, and we already mentioned them, they mean that we need to cooperate very close with our neighbors at least. So, Ilya, over to you again. A few words about that, if you please, about the international cooperation in GLONASS. Well, I would have split this question, or rather my answer, my response, into three parts, and I mentioned that in my presentation. We have similar systems in the world. In Kazakhstan, for example, in the Eurasian Union, and starting last year in Europe, they have IPO system. I believe they've launched it already or are about to. So we really welcome this idea of working together because we need to make our drivers' experience much safer. So we've just finished working with Kazakhstan and Finland, and our drivers now, if they wish to go to these countries, they can be pretty sure that they can get help in these countries. And drivers from Finland and Kazakhstan both can feel pretty confident that help will come. There's no definite plan in place, but we visited a number of events and we talked to similar operators. Unfortunately, the cooperation and interaction is not that well organized. And in some countries there are several operators, so we have to communicate with them tete-a-tete, and we'll keep doing that. We'll keep working with other countries where such systems exist. Part two, well, that's an ambitious goal of ours, is to capture this export potential. We are the operator, we have the system, and there are some countries on the continent with no systems or plans in place. But there are businessmen that promote our solution so that they could take our platform, our system, and launch something similar or based on our system in their own countries, and with some countries represented here as well. We already have established something like that. It's not possible to do everything just in Russia. It's global, and we must be part of the global process. And if we manage to spread Russian technology across the world, then I think it's not going to be that bad of an idea. And as for part three, standardization, we've been working on this for a number of years. And even though the UN rules came into force on last year, but all those 2G, 3G, they're about to end. They're about to go away. soon we will not have channels anymore, we're going to have packages. So we need to switch to a different kind of format, the next generation platform. So we are actively listening to what others have to say, but we don't develop standards on our own. Okay, you've just bridged the gap that I wanted to bridge. We have Mr. Kisulenko. He's a well-known expert, and there's a whole range of issues related to regulation, negotiation. So, as for standardization, what do you think about that? As a person who's been in it for a number of years. Well, thank you very much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. A few words about that, about the international activity in this area. If you remember, GLONASS has been a mandatory requirement for Russian manufacturers since 2015. And since then, all new vehicles were supposed to be equipped with this system. And from 2017, within the Eurasian Union, all vehicles were supposed to be equipped with GLONASS system. So ever since, the Russian delegation in Geneva and within the global framework of the Global Forum related to transport has initiated development of the UN process. And in 2017, the rule has been developed. So now we have about 55 countries, participants of this forum. All European countries, Eurasian Economic Union, the US, Japan, South Korea, South Africa, Malaysia. So everyone is now involved in this. But the UN rules are voluntary. It means that if a manufacturer wants, and if he meets the requirements, then he has a right to get the European certificate to be recognized in all countries, in every country participant of the agreement. So the UN rule that has been developed with the active participation and help of the Russian Federation is the regulatory document that may be used as a starting point for other countries, including countries of the Eurasian Union. At the same time, and my colleagues have already mentioned that this system, GLONASS, and the rules were developed, and in parallel, the European Union has been developing something similar. It's a closed market, 28 countries, and the EU directives are mandatory for members of the European Union. And if they export, if somebody wishes to export their vehicles to the European Union, they have to comply with the eCall system. So the eCall system is very close to the GLONASS system requirements. So it means that our export opportunities are expanding, because if you have a certificate in line with the UN standard, it means you automatically comply with eCall requirements. Well, in a nutshell, this is it. Okay, thank you very much. One more question. Boris, to a certain extent, or partly, is it a coincidence, or is it not a coincidence? This almost, is it close to 100%? Well, as for functions, these requirements are very close. So almost no obstacles. Right. Okay, now I would like to give floor to my old friend, Andrei Tikhonov. We've been working together for a long time now. But what I would like to talk about now is protecting data and cybersecurity. Actually, it's a very interesting thing. In the United States, they've been talking about by kilometer or pay-as-you-go tax. That's the kind of tax that they wanted to introduce. But privacy was key, because if I get a bill and my wife may ask me, what have you been doing in Podolsk? No business there. So privacy is gone. You may kiss privacy goodbye in this particular case. So protecting data, even I'm being very naive here, but anyway, this is a huge system. GLONASS is a huge, enormous system. But a few words about that, please. And actually, I need to excuse myself. In 40 minutes, I have to be elsewhere, and I will ask Ilya, my friend, to be a moderator here, because I'm sorry, unfortunately, I really need to go. So thank you very much. Well, thank you for your question. Well, thank you very much for your question. Thank you indeed. Actually, safety and cybersecurity and security in general, it develops at a high pace. And what you've just said, it was rightfully noted that security has developed a great deal, so now it has transformed into something different that includes a number of aspects. Privacy, yes. Reliability, sustainability, stability, and we have a globally agreed classification. And another thing, whatever is happening to us in big cities is happening in 3 dimensions: physical dimension, cyber dimension, let's say computers or a computer world, and analog dimension. There are some threats, and the threats are very different. So at the moment, we have to revisit the profile of threats, and we need to look at cyber criminals differently, and we need to look for potential violators or ex-employees, so on and so forth, or law enforcement activity, fraudulent activity, and many other things. That's what we need to look at. Another thing which is also very important, trust has transformed as well. When we talk about trust, it's like delegating your authority to someone, and you are distributing or redistributing the authority. Things are now becoming more like Facebook, and very quickly things transform into something else. Some things that people are talking about.
And here I would like to remind you of an interesting phrase. Actually, this was what the Russian president said during a direct line in June. This was a matter not of trust but of guarantees, and I think this is something that is important for all of us. I'm talking about cybersecurity. Of course, we can't just fully rely on trust as a subjective estimate, because subjective estimate is not sufficient to measure all the threats. I have to say that GLONASS, or GLONASS success, is due to the fact that this system was initially designed as a digital system. Right now it has a lot of potential which is being discussed at this forum. This involves new applications, this involves big data, artificial intelligence in order to process this big data, and finally VTX. And this system also faces a lot of challenges because of its scalability and universality. I'm talking about new applications. And what we can see right now is that there is one autonomous vehicle, but it has telematic blocks from several manufacturers. And those blocks have different properties, which is quite risky. In terms of guarantees, we all know what a car is. Just imagine a smartphone which weighs a ton and which is on wheels. It is critical. It is infrastructure. So actually, this system has different requirements rather than ordinary systems that we use on an everyday basis. As we talk about safety, we need to talk about integrated or comprehensive safety systems, infrastructure solutions, organizational and legal standards. And we've made a lot of progress in terms of trust and safety, involving Federal Law 187 on critical information infrastructure and the 31st Legal Act, which talks about levels of confidence. Talking about our digital independence, that is, our ability to implement solutions for critical infrastructure, such as transport infrastructure, there is a big gap between user interfaces that we all use as drivers and such infrastructure as V2X, which has a great potential. We are working with our partners on classifying new threats. We work with suppliers of safe solutions in order to design new systems that could be used in Russia with the use of international standards but based on Russian solutions. Thank you, Andrei. You actually prepared everything for the next presentation. We're having a digital era, but our government is physical, so Mikhail had to leave us to go to the government, but the government gave us back Spock, Mr. Spock. And I have a question to Mr. Spock, which involves those devices on which ERA GLONASS is based. This system's flexibility is highly dependent on the equipment that is installed in a car and its balance between being standardized and being flexible in launching new solutions. This balance is, it depends on car manufacturing industry and other industries. So what should we expect there? Thank you. Good afternoon, dear experts. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. I believe that this market is very promising for the Russian radio electronic industry. There is a big segment of solutions that the Russian industry is capable of covering. I'm talking about electronic component base. But the question is as follows. Along with direct regulation, and I fully agree with Andrei, that ERA GLONASS is all about critical information infrastructure, which requires a certain level of trust, and we need Russian-produced equipment, which is working on a Russian component base. So we need a government policy which would promote the Russian manufacturer. This is where we are in an ongoing dialogue with car manufacturers with those manufacturers working in Russia, and you all know that they have localization requirements. And we've been discussing this last week. We are going to keep discussing this next week. So all car manufacturers are ready to start localization of car electronic components. And it would be logical to start localization of ERA solutions. You know that ERA GLONASS solutions are placed in cars, and we are looking at those points which are given to car manufacturers for localization. We'll probably amend this system in order to motivate car manufacturers to start this localization and to start using more Russian solutions based on Russian components. But once again, the number of cars which are rolled out in Russia every year is not so great, and microelectronics is an industry of scale. So it would be great if we could expand this market considerably. I think we have these resources. It's not very just that only those who drive new cars, those produced over the last 2 or 3 years, are equipped with GLONASS, and only they have this possibility to use ERA GLONASS services. But most of other car users whose cars were manufactured 2 or 3 years ago do not have this possibility. I don't think it's fair. We have 4.6 million users in this system. And how many vehicles do we have in Russia? About 60 millions. I believe that it's time we started spreading those safety possibilities to the secondary car market. We can talk a lot about it, about how to do this. And there will be people who would say, we can't actually put the costs on people. I agree that the approach should be diversified, but we are talking about 60 million cars, and those are cars that are older than 3 years old. They are not new cars, which is why they are more susceptible to risks. And those cars are not equipped with this system. I believe that this new market, this considerable increase in the subscriber base, could be provided by this reserve. So I think that the ERA GLONASS system should be developing along these lines as well, but not because of direct government intervention, because of commercial services which would be helpful and agreeable to the user. We should not impose this system to the car users at their own expense. We need to provide them with new services so that they can feel their value. I believe that equipping the secondary car fleet with those devices, with this system, will also support the Russian manufacturers. And I think that it will provide another scale of information for the operators. We all understand that it's all about big data, and this big data will be helpful for car manufacturers. We can talk about different monetization models. Also, thanks to the accumulation of a lot of information, this big data, and by operating this big data, you can have a lot of value and a better quality of information for ERA GLONASS operators. Thank you. Thank you. I believe that we all agree here. We all think that the insurance topic and improving technical control of road accidents which is now covered by the law, is a real advantage. This is what this on-board system can give to the driver, this additional value, because car users have a lot of benefits if they use technical means of control when registering their car accidents. So we invite you to cooperate with us on that even more actively. And talking about those positive aspects of cooperation between IT and the car industry, I would like to go back to the real cases of saving people. This is what we are working for. This is why all of that was created. And I give the floor to Roman Rulov, ERA GLONASS subscriber system. Good afternoon. Thank you very much. A lot of statistics have been mentioned today, so I would like to emphasize just a few points, including some numbers. Thank you very much. I'm talking to the previous speaker. We are accumulating a huge amount of data, big data, on an everyday basis. We have 4.6 million cars in our system, and it's getting more by 4.5 thousand every day. The number of daily calls keeps growing all the time. Among 50,000 emergency calls that we received, 70% of those calls are automatic. And this is what has been mentioned. This is when a person driving the car or people who were located in the car were unable to make this call and explain what they needed. This is really very important, and this confirms that this system is very useful. The forum participants can find a leaflet among the distribution materials which showcases several stories that we believe are very important. You can get familiarized with those cases. And I should say that all the calls are very different in our statistics. Every call is unique. Every call is about, or might be about, life or death of a person. So we really need to be very responsible here. And I should say that the operators are also people, and they do their best to provide as much help as possible to those people who are in this emergency situation. One unique call that we received was a call that we got in one of the North Caucasus regions. This was a person who was in a mountainous area, and he couldn't control the car, and the car fell. It slid along the mountain slope by more than 400 meters, and only the geopositioning system was able to identify the position, the location of this car. And the rescue people who tried to find this person said that without this geopositioning system, the probability of finding this person was just 1%. And 3 months later, this person was discharged from hospital, and he addressed us and said, "Thank you for saving my life." So this is one more case which confirms that this system is really important. For some circumstances, we don't always get feedback from people who found themselves in a car accident. So we receive a very few thanks words. But this case shows that what we do is really important. To continue on what has been said, I would like to point out that today we receive a lot of emergency calls that are not connected with a car accident. Sometimes it's about the car breaking down. Sometimes this is because of the Euro Protocol service. Sometimes it is about certain questions that car owners ask. And we can see that the users of this system look for even more, and we can see that. That's about it. Thank you very much, all those who are making the system better and kinder today. Thank you. Thank you, Roman. And thank you, all discussion participants. I hope this discussion was interesting, and I would like to invite you to our round tables, which will take place at this Congress today. We invite media representatives to ask us any questions. We are open for questions, and on behalf of the entire company, I would like to mention once again that we will do everything we can in order to save people's life, in order to make their lives safer, more interesting, more comfortable, and better. Thank you very much once again, and I hope that next year we will be able to share with you the stories of implementing some of the ideas that were mentioned here today. Thank you once again.